episode 5. Great intro, episode 5. Yeah, pleased to be back. We've had a couple of weeks break. I've been a bit busy, haven't I?
You have.
Gave birth to my beautiful daughter.
That must have been painful.
Very painful.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah, it was painful.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You've got another niece, which is great. So she came back from hospital last week, doing really well, which is fantastic.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, that's why we've had a slight break, but we're back in the Chester Tavern tonight, which is where we did the first podcast. So, massive thank you to them. Great pub.
Brilliant venue, yeah.
Great venue to film the pod in. So yeah.
Yeah. What we got planned today?
So today, England heavy. Well, sort of England heavy. Euro 96, which was just amazing to look back on and to have all those feelings come up of how amazing it was that summer. We've got Phil Brown, which, as people from Kidderminster, he obviously managed them recently for about 18 months.
Yeah.
He was a great guest for me.
Really good.
Really funny. Didn't dodge any question. if anything, he told us what to ask him. He was really good. So he was a good character really from the Premier League.
Yeah.
And we're looking back on Germany 2006, which I guess we're into territory of you actually remembering the tournaments.
Yeah, so we're going deep into it, but I think this is probably the first one that I remember every England game. I won't remember every World Cup game and that. I think that'll be the one after, but this one is interesting to say the least. Wag heavy, Baden. Yeah. Neville on the tables.
Oh,
yeah. Really good.
So before we get started, so there's 2 announcements. So I'll start. So part of the Retro Ramblings podcast group, I'm going to be filming with my amazing friend Coralie Hudson, our fundraising, the Fundraising Forum podcast, which is basically a podcast which we're going to talk about our journeys through podcasting through fundraising, which is something obviously I've done a lot of and hope to inspire others. We're going to have guests along the way. It's going to be monthly, probably about 6 episodes. So hopefully we're going to film that next week. We'll probably try and get some kind of promo out this week as well. And also...
Yeah, so we've got the World Cup review, which is obviously kicked off already, but we're doing a kind of online 20 to 30 minute breakdown of what's happened in the week. Obviously England are kicking off what it had been last week, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been last week. So
excited for that and excited to review that.
Yeah,
I think we've got some heavy kind of debate to speak about as well at the minute with the breaks in play. I think that's a big subject at the minute.
Yeah,
but obviously we're all hoping for an England's.
Yeah,
it's coming home, which leads on to our next and first subject, I suppose.
Yeah, it's coming home. So
your fave?
I think so. I mean, you can't do a football 80s, 90s, 2000 podcast without having an episode covering Euro 96.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about the build up to it because it's a bit weird because England obviously for 3 years didn't play a competitive game because we didn't qualify for the 94 World Cup, which I think also helped with the excitement of this.
Yeah.
And then it was, obviously we were hosts, so we didn't have to qualify. So we just used to have friendly after friendly after friendly. But I don't think it was like now where you would have your international breaks where all the countries would play. I think we'd have like some random Wednesday night game.
Yeah.
Terry Venables had took over from Graham Taylor in early 94. He was going to lead us to it. It was exciting because there were so many Premier League players getting a chance to play, but it wasn't like we've had in the past where someone's played 2 games at right back for Arsenal, so you've got to pick him. It wasn't like that. They all did seem to be established Premier League players, but
heavily
a lot of them, and weirdly, and I can't confirm this, but I'd imagine a lot of the players that were picked when he took over in the first game or 2 games, I think it might have been Greece's first game, wouldn't have been the squad in 1996.
Yeah.
So, but he did have an array of talent to pick from. I mean, if you think about the centre forward, so it was a bit. I found it a bit strange time.
Yeah, I think as well. 96 is special, obviously being at home, but also you have got that break from 1990, that team that did well. Obviously 92 nobody remembers, and then you've got kind of a massive evolution going into 96. You've got some young, players like Neville coming into the team. Phil Neville obviously was in the squad.
Yeah.
You got Fowler in the squad. And then like people like Shearer, just at his pomp, wasn't he?
Shearer at his pomp, although, I mean, I know we hear about it all the time. He hadn't scored for a while. But you also had players who sort of reinvented themselves. So Tony Adams played in 88. I know he had his troubles, but he didn't play in 1990. Don't think he played in 92. Obviously 94. So he comes back, and I think he's like captain.
I think his previous tournament was 88.
88,
wasn't it?
yeah.
And
so you
Van
had like
Basten.
him come in,
back.
Obviously David Platt's still there. Gazza's still there. David Seaman had obviously you'd had the Shilton years, Chris Woods, and then he's sort of established himself as number one. As you said, Stuart Pearce, he had a long injury, hadn't he? And I think Graham Lasso got injured.
Yes.
So Pearce then is number one. Gareth Southgate is coming the start of that year. He's come in.
You know about the Southgate one? Is that? I think I've read that Steve Howie was going to be the starting centre half alongside Adams, but he had a bad injury.
Yeah, Steve Howie had an injury. I didn't know he was going to be starting, but Steve Howie had a couple of caps and he'd had an injury sort of I think he'd be picked in the squad, hadn't he?
Because he has a brilliant tournament, doesn't he, Southgate?
Southgate was really, really good. He'd had a really good couple of months. He'd won the League Cup with Villa in March. I think that's when he made his debut.
Yes.
And then he's hit the ground running. And then you've got your Steve McManaman, who's young, who been given his chance by Taylor. Darren Anderton has just fought injuries all the time, but he
really underrated player.
Really, and I think he had been injured leading up to it, and much game time. Obviously, you've got Gaza. Teddy Sheringham seems to. I mean, he's a great player, but he's probably not scoring the goals of Fowler or Les Ferdinand.
He's still at Spurs at the time, isn't he? Sheringham.
Still at Spurs, yeah. I think Les Ferdinand scored 20 odd goals. You had like Steve Stone, Nick Barmby, who had a really strange England career. He had spells playing, but he was a really good player, Nick Barmby. So David Platt, and then you had Paul Ince as well, who
he has a good tournament.
Really, he's such a good player. And then you had Jamie Redknapp, who played half a game, but it was a brilliant half a game.
Yeah, brilliant. I didn't realise, looking into the 96, and maybe it's because I wasn't, around, and when you're looking back, you don't really understand the time. Peter Beardsley was in the provisional 26-man squad, I think.
But he was up front with Les Ferdinand, wasn't he? Newcastle. So obviously, as we started our podcast, they had a great partnership. And then you had, and obviously you had, Tim Flowers, Ian Walker were the backup keepers, I believe. I think Sol Campbell was in the squad as well.
Saying you believe like you don't know 1 to 22 like that.
Well, I do, yeah. But I don't
Sol Campbell is in the squad.
Yeah.
I think it's brilliant team. And what's really interesting about England is we changed formation, don't we, a couple of times during the tournament. And in a weird kind of, they go on about, the foreign coaches who have coached England being really rigid 4-4-2. Venables goes from a 4 to a 3, playing wing backs of McManaman and Anderton, bombing on
with two sort of full backs in Neville and Pearce, sort of in that, isn't it? Yeah. But should we go to the build up first?
Yes, please.
So the build up. So as I said, they've had all these friendlies, and you've got a management team of Terry Venables and Brian Robson. Brian Robson, who is known as one of the best England players ever, captain, but also known as one of the best drinkers the world's ever seen. So they obviously go and play, and I do remember they played this Hong Kong 11.
Yeah.
But it wasn't players. I'll tell you what I remember. There was 2 Dave Watsons who played for Everton. There was a Dave Watson playing in the 90s. I just remember him playing for the Hong Kong 11, which is useless information, but I just got to say, I think England scrape a win against them.
Was it 1-0?
I think it was 1-0. I think it was 1-0. So we'd had a couple of games leading up to Wembley, and then we had to do this.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously this dentist chair. So the media in the 90s was as harsh as any country and at any time this country's seen. And it's come off the back of the Graham Taylor era where we haven't qualified, we've got the documentary, the turnip thing. So they're waiting for England to fail.
Yeah.
It's in this country, the pressure's on. You know, where the fact that England haven't played a tournament for 4 years that's not going to cut it. You've got to deliver, you on home soil. They go away and they're told they can go out for a few hours, and Brian Robson is coming to keep an eye on you. And next thing you know is they're in this bar. I think it was Gaz's birthday.
Yeah.
They're in this dentist chair. They're pouring the key. I think the idea is you pour something down their neck, straight, etc. They're ripping each other's shirts
Again,
off.
you acting like you've never done it.
I'm acting, yeah, but you know, I wasn't in the sun, was I, the day after? And it just doesn't go down well.
Yeah.
It obviously looks really bad. I think on the picture it's got Gaza, Teddy Sheringham, Steve McManaman, thinking.
I've got a question for you. So around this time, obviously, you know, the media, and I remember the media growing up in 06, which we'll speak about later. Do you think the players just don't care? Do you think they're not going to get caught? Or do you think, I
think it was probably still a naive time where you're in Hong Kong.
And you think...
And they're probably thinking, we'll be okay here. I do. But it's like anyone, you know, we've all been there. We've all gone out. We've intended to have a couple of beers and go home, and you get carried away. And that's exactly what's happened. Yeah. At that time, did I think it's going to affect is it going to be the difference to the first game against Switzerland? Not at all. I mean, I was 10, so I probably didn't look at it that deeply. But I do remember it on the front of the paper. I think Terry Venables handled it superbly. I think something happened on the plane on the way home as well, which they just kept covered up. But Terry Venables just doesn't bat an eyelid. And there's, you know, if you look back on YouTube and there's like Football Focus of, you know, Terry Venables being interviewed and he's just calm as anything. It's as if he's prepared that if anything happens, I'm going to take the blame. Yeah. He is their dad. You probably imagine, a few telling offs happen in camp, but he's
then
like...
How can you tell somebody off when your assistant coach is
exactly
as bladdered as the players?
The issue it does do is, what happens is, it puts a lot of pressure on the first game, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on Gaza as well, because he's the man who needs to deliver.
But then what does he do in typical Gaza fashion? Goes and gets a bleach haircut. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And then you got that footage of the reporters outside his door. Yes. He's like, "Have you ever played football?" Which I didn't really think was relevant. But then you see how great Terry Venables is. You know, we've all heard it. We've all heard about Alan Shearer. You're going to start. So it was brilliant. I remember that summer. I think it was Tim Henman really introduced himself on the scene.
Tim.
We had the first 3 Lions.
Yeah.
And I remember on the front of the paper it said, because of Tim Henman, he had his Adidas thing, it said 3 stripes on our shirt. So I remember that. He really announced himself. It just seemed, it probably wasn't every day, but it just seemed sunny outside. It was really exciting. Of course, did the sticker book. It was just amazing to see. And obviously, you know, we had match of the day. We didn't have Sky at home, so you'd see the central match and you'd see match of the day.
Yeah.
But suddenly you got all these games on, and they're at grounds in this country. So that was amazing. So the grounds that were being used, which this is quite interesting. I think the only one south of Birmingham was Wembley.
Right.
So they had, obviously, Wembley, which England played all their games there. If they wouldn't have won the group, though, I think they would have had to play at Old Trafford, I think. Yes. So they had Wembley, Villa Park, which was the other one in our group, Ellen Road, Anfield, City Ground, Hillsborough, Old Trafford, St James's Park. So they were all north, which I find quite interesting. I love the fact that it wasn't, we're going to have one of them in Scotland and one of them in Ireland and one of them in Wales.
Which we're doing.
Which we're doing. And the one the other week, when they were trying to, it's not Euro 96.
Yeah.
No, it was in England. And it was just brilliant. The first game, the opening game is Switzerland. So the song, we've got Three Lions comes out. This is just, we've had a brilliant song in 1990. This can't continue, and it does. Like Three Lions, and it wasn't the official song. I think it was Simply Red.
It was Simply Red.
Yeah.
Does anybody know the theme tune in '92? Did we have one?
Couldn't tell you.
But I just want to rewind on that, actually. So, obviously, speaking about, the players then, what players are missing out in that squad?
The England squad.
Yeah. Ian Wright,
yeah. Paul Merson, I'm not sure. Probably Rob Lee. Batty.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell if these were injured at the time.
Yeah.
Beardsley was there.
You got some top players.
Yeah, you had the straight
Dixon.
Lee Dixon. He hadn't played for
Rob
a little
Jones.
while. Maybe. Yeah, I think he'd had his injury. That's so Gary Neville came in. But I think that straight after this, you had the emergence. The emergence of the class of '92 had already happened, but they all get in the England squad. I know you've got Gary Neville in there. Maybe Martin Keown.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he'd played loads on the Venables.
You're missing some top players. Like, they go on about the depth now.
Yeah.
The depth of those strikers, you could. Chris Sutton, obviously, I know he has
Chris Sutton, Chris Armstrong, Dean Holdsworth.
Yeah. Andy Cole, did he go?
Andy Cole, no, it was.
He's like fourth top scorer.
Yeah, we had a lot of depth then. You're right, and yeah.
But then, when going back to the Switzerland game, obviously, coming up against Switzerland, the manager of Switzerland is Roy Hodgson, isn't it?
No, he'd done 94.
94.
But he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
No.
Just on that. So one of the exciting things about Euro '96 as well is that the Premier League has started having the foreigners come in. So you recognise a lot of them.
Yeah.
I think maybe Rude or it had come in, Zola, Dan Petrescu, people like that. So Burkamp. So you sort of recognise a lot of these.
Yeah.
So that made it quite exciting as well. And it was the first time, so it had gone up to 16 teams, which, although I would criticise the World Cup this year before it had too many, for a tournament, 8 before was too low. Yeah. So that was exciting as well. And obviously we get drawn in the group with Scotland, which is, we haven't played them since...
Home nation.
Yeah, we haven't played them since 89, so that's really exciting as well. But yeah, so we get to the first game for England. Obviously it's the opening game. Switzerland, it wasn't a good game.
I've rewatched it recently. It is a boring game.
It's a boring game. We've got players who run out of steam a lot, like your Andertons. Matt Manor, they sort of seem to run out of steam. But I thought Tony Adams was exceptional. Yeah. And it was brilliant for, obviously, Shearer to get his...
get off the mark.
Yeah, off the mark. Who gave away the penalty for them?
Adams? Was it Adams, Scotland?
No, I think Pierce, Scotland.
No, I think it's Adams, Scotland.
Adams. So I just remember thinking it's a definite penalty. But it was a Saturday afternoon, 3:00. It would have been on as grandstands. Yeah. It was BBC. Yeah, it was a BBC One game. I always liked the BBC One game better. Yeah. Although my favourite commentator was Brian Moore on ITV. But it was really exciting, and it was a 1-1. And they talk now like it was a bit of a real awful, it's 1-1, it was really deflated. I don't remember thinking that. I thought we were off the mark. The first game's happened. I thought it was I just thought it was really exciting.
I think interesting going back to your point about the excitement around the foreigners. I heard a really good point saying is that why tournaments don't seem special now? Because you know all the players.
Yes.
I mean, you don't know half the players in '96 until they're playing, do you?
Never heard of Karol Poborski, but he gets signed on the back of that. Patrick Berger. So I think the third goal is the great goal where Gascoigne goes with it, meanders in the box, sort of passes it
to Sheringham,
who could shoot and probably score, and he does that brilliant layoff to Shearer, who is just... I think Shearer's actually said he misshits it, but that helps it work.
It goes in top corner, doesn't it?
So yeah, then we're 3-0 up, and then I think we go. Then I think Anderton has the shot for the 4th goal, and Sheringham follows up,
yeah.
which he does well. I mean, he's not known for his pace, but he does really well to get there, doesn't he?
And he's kind of falling as well, isn't he?
At the same time this is happening, Scotland are playing at Villa Park against Switzerland. After that, Ali McCoy scores a hell of a goal.
Brilliant goal.
Really good goal.
Kind of like comes across him and he hits it.
Because Scotland
corner.
they'd had a draw against Holland.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I've watched that game, and Holland did have a lot of possession, but Scotland did. I mean, it's a great draw. So they'd had a credible draw there.
They matched them.
Yeah, they matched them. They gave us a good game, and then I think Kluivert comes on and scores, which sort of stops them thingy. But the atmosphere, and I have to say, I said about Scotland travelling well. It did feel that it was half and half.
Dutch always.
Yeah.
Always. What I do want to touch on is, and I don't think any other player I've ever seen does this, the goal that is a beautiful play, Gaza Sheringham.
Yeah.
Gaza just runs off celebrating on his own.
Yes.
He does it every time he assists something. I've never ever seen a player do that.
Was he Bruno Fernandes of his time?
Yeah, imagine Roy Keane back in there.
Oh, no, yeah.
But yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not sure if they've had a word of just letting Kluivert go through to knock them out. But yeah, Scotland get knocked out, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Us and the Dutch go through.
Us and Holland go through, but that night we absolutely annihilated them.
I think so, yeah.
Like, especially the first half, it was like...
Very complete.
It really was. So that's just, like we said, one of the England's just best. So we go through. Obviously, Spain go through because we've got them in the quarter-final. Not really massively aware of Spain at the time.
No,
they all seem to be a team who's in the tournament, but
they're not the powerhouse they are.
They were 10 years later.
Yeah.
No.
Some of the players they had, Hierro,
I think, and
Campo,
Nadal.
Nadal, Rafa's uncle.
Yeah.
But you don't know.
No, you
loads
don't.
Of them.
But so this then, and actually this is on the following Saturday, but it's actually quite a dull day. I do remember it being a bit more of a dull day, yeah. I mean, I know I sound like Michael Fish on this, but it does. It goes a bit of a dull day. Not a great game.
Yeah.
They score a goal which is not
Legitimate,
offside.
yeah.
Legitimate.
I think, looking back, they were the better team.
They were, and I can't remember England having loads of chances.
No.
I'm not saying
the
they did.
Shearer one.
Shearer has a good one, yeah.
At the end, but yeah, apart from that, I mean, he should score that as well.
Yeah. It goes to extra time.
Goes to extra time.
I think we made a couple of subs, but it goes to penalties, and it's like...
It's a big moment.
It is. And, I mean, we think now, then, it was like, we're not going to win on penalties, and we'd only ever lost one.
Yeah.
This is like the first one since this is only our second one, and we're already like
optimistic as ever.
Penalties, we're not going to chance.
Yeah.
But you did feel a little bit of a chance with David Seaman, and because he had saved that penalty as well.
Yeah.
So they
he covers the goal.
Yeah, and the penalties, I think. Who steps up? But I think Gaza. I think we had Platt must have come on and scored.
Platt scores. Shearer, Gaza,
Sheringham.
And then the main man.
And then, so...
Redemption arc.
Yeah, so he had still been taking his penalties for Forest. He was still the penalty stay for them, but I think he'd had a lot of stick,
You've let your country down.
Yeah, for 6 years.
Horrendous.
So he steps up, and this isn't fake. He scores, and it's not fake. It is emotion pouring out, and it is...
I've never seen anything like it.
How many... It's got to be in the top 5 iconic England moments.
I think so. It's just that whole, being down there in 1990, coming back. I have got one thing. I don't like left footers taking penalties.
Why?
It's always been a thing. Waddle, Pierce. I don't like it. It just doesn't feel right, but I'm happy for him.
Yeah, and it was, and everyone was.
He's gone full psycho as well, hasn't he?
And then Seaman saves penalty and we're through. Yeah, and we did, and it did feel lucky.
He had a brilliant tournament, Seaman, looking back.
I think he was. I mean, he was
top.
My favourite Prem goalkeeper. So he was solid. So we're through on that. Felt we got away with one, and we know that we've got to play Germany. And who was the other semi-final? Obviously, Czech Republic has won.
It isn't Czech v Croatia, is it?
Is it? Croatia, or was it France or someone like
I think
that?
France get knocked out quarters.
Right. So the Czech are through, but we've got Germany, and I have to say, we're all a bit optimistic.
Weirdly,
They've got a good team,
yeah.
but we are optimistic.
Weirdly, we are. We think we're going to beat them.
I think we're having a bit of luck, and we've pulled this performance out against Holland, and I think Alan Shearer, I think he's just on fire. So he's scored everyone except for Spain, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I think so.
But we look solid at the back as well.
Gary Neville's suspended though, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Platt comes in.
Yes.
So we start the game. So the atmosphere before the game, we've got to change shirts. So we're effectively the away shirt. So we've got the bluey grey one on, which I wasn't a man at the time, but I really like now.
Yeah.
The national anthem and the 3 lines for the game is like... So, and
Paul Young.
Paul Young singing. He's trying to sing it, he just stops. But like, the Germans love the song as well. I think they're singing, they love it as well. They've got some good players, obviously Klinsmann.
3 lines really
Sammer.
kicks off after the Holland game, doesn't it? It takes a world of its own, and then at the semi-final, it's just
and I think
everywhere.
Last episode we did the top 10 England wins. I think that if you did games England involved in, iconic, this would be well up there.
Yeah.
But we start off amazing. I think Paul Ince has a long-range effort, just gets tipped over, brilliant effort. We don't have a penalty, and a corner, which feels like it's been worked on the training ground. I think
Very Arsenal.
Adam flicks it on, Shearer. Yeah. But if this is a thing, we almost score a bit too early. I think it's in the first 10 minutes. And we don't really know what to do. We get a bit stuck in, do we press again? And we don't. And then...
we've done that many a time, haven't we, English fans?
And then every child's dream of a friend who you're going to bully at school scores. Cunts. So cunt scores. Yeah. A commentator's nightmare. And then the second half is a bit... Not a lot happens.
No. It's very nervy.
Very nervy. And the one thing to also mention in this one, we got the golden goal.
Yeah.
So it goes into extra time. Terry Venom still hasn't made a sub, which I find unreal. And then we batter him. So you got Darren Anderson has an unbelievable chance. And then you have the Gaza one. There is no goal I ever watched back, like no Wolves goal back when you know what's going to happen. But this goal, you know what's going to happen, and you're still screaming.
You still think he's going to score every time?
Yeah.
How has he not scored?
I don't know. I can't see him pull his leg away, but that's what he reckons he slightly pulled it away.
He does anticipate the German defender. I'm not sure if it's Sam or whoever. Yeah. I think he anticipates him getting a touch. He just doesn't. Yeah. It's Shearer, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Hit it.
I think... Darren Anderson, I listened to one podcast, said, the plan was that if we scored, we were just all going to run off the pitch because it was golden goal. So it's just devastating. And you get to penalties and you're not feeling as confident. No. This is Germany. Germans are regimented. Yeah. You know, they know what they're going to do. They're going to score. And I remember thinking, I don't feel confident.
However, first 5 penalties of ours...
Yeah,
I've watched it. But Shearer won top corner. Sharon's won top corner.
The best. Do you know what? The players that you think will score the penalties have taken them.
Yeah,
you sort of run out. Bit disappointing when you see Paul Ince facing the other way.
But then again,
the German ones, Seaman doesn't get anywhere near, does he?
No. But Paul Ince takes one 2 years later.
And misses.
Yeah.
And then you've got Gareth. You're not. You know, of course, there's only 11 players on the pitch. And just a point on this, which I would never, ever, ever got over, is the fact that Terry Venables doesn't make one sub over 120 minutes. No, there was a reason he said, I think he might have said it because of penalties, you know, that if he was making a change, he would be taking one of his penalty takers off. The front ones. You've got Robbie Fowler on the side.
Robbie Fowler.
Left Ferdinand never got a minute. Platt scored, isn't he?
Platt scored.
Yeah, Platt played, didn't he?
Yeah. Who would have been the midfielders then? Obviously, you got Stone, but
Steve Stone, Nick Barmby.
Oh, Nick Barmby.
Yeah. So then we Southgate, and we're not confident, and it's not a great penalty, but he stepped up, and you just know then that they're not going to miss theirs.
No.
And it's sad, it's the old enemy, and it's in our own backyard.
And that celebration.
But you know what? If we get through, we're going to win the final, aren't we? I think that was the hardest bit, that we're going to win that final, and we don't. In that fight, so we're out, and it is like that was my first real devastation of being an England fan. More
or less painful than 1990?
Well, I can't remember it live, 1990. No. Maybe I think it would have been worse for if at that time both. Yeah, I think it was.
So I think 1990 you didn't have much expectation.
No, didn't have much expectation, and you got Argentina in the final. Will you? Won't you?
Yeah.
We got Czech Republic. We'll win that at Wembley, and it was gutting. So. It was devastating, and then the final, I think. So Germany, I found out recently that they actually got permission. They only had 13 fit players, and one of those was a goalkeeper. They got permission to, for the final, to get another player in if the Czech Republic agreed, and they were allowed to. And they had outfield players' shirts made for the sub-goalkeepers.
Oh, wow.
Because they were so short. I think they win. I think it's a Bierhoff.
Oh, that makes
a scrappy
even,
goal.
That makes even more screws.
Yeah, because I think Klinsmann was injured for the semi-final.
Yeah.
So it was gutting as an England fan, but amazing tournament, amazing memories. I've got the team. So Shearer gets obviously top Golden Boot, and he's going to then go on to have a couple of amazing years for England. The team of the tournament was Kopko in goal, which I think should have been Seaman. Back three of Sammer, who was a brilliant player. Desailly, Laurent Blanc, Maldini, Poborski, Gaza. I think it's pronounced Eltz for Germany. Then Shearer, Stoichkov, and Suker, who have brilliant. They do have really good tournaments.
Stoichkov had a really good 94 as well. Didn't
yeah, really good player. So that's the team. So
it's not a bad 11. Though.
No, and it's something that will be talked about for so many years. It's the summer. Yeah, it was just really
what we'll say.
Amazing.
We don't blame Southgate, do we? But I've had some career off the back of it.
Have you watched any of that thing on BBC?
Yes.
I've watched the first. I'm not saying it's any good, but doesn't the bloke look just like him?
Perfectly like him.
Shame they couldn't get the Jack Grealish.
Or Wayne Rooney.
Or Wayne Rooney, yeah. But yeah, and it's he did. I mean, he was a good player, but
it's nice looking back on good memories, isn't it?
Yeah.
Will it come home this year? We're not sure.
We're not sure, but that felt like, do you know what? That felt more likely even when we got to the final of the last two tournaments.
Yes.
It was just, yeah. So, it's one of those things that it never feels like. Even they were the older stadiums, they've all changed now. You imagine that, if we had it just in this country, they'd be just for the sake of it, the massive ones. And
out of 10, in terms of rating for a tournament, obviously I know we're doing our World Cups, but
10.
10?
Yeah, it was.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a perfect way to end. So coming up now, we've got Phil Brown, manager who's managing the Prem, our first Premier League manager. Hull City, he's got some brilliant stories about Jimmy Bullard, Dean Windass, and obviously being Kidderminster, he's just, last year resigned from Kidderminster. So enjoy the interview and we'll be back soon.
Today we welcome a former Premier League manager, Bolton legend, North East legend, and Kidderminster Harriers legend, Phil Brown. Welcome, Phil.
Well, welcome. I like all the legends there. Sounds good.
We try and butter the guests up.
Aye, absolutely. Go with the flow.
We're going to ask for the first question, Phil. Are you coming back to our hometown club, Kidderminster?
Dear. I've been asked that a million times, honestly. It's unreal. I sent the chairman a congratulations message very formally, you know. It's one of them where all my clubs that I've been to this season seems to be a trend that they're all doing reasonably well, you know. Hull City in the playoff final now. Bolton Wanderers in the playoff final. Kidderminster Harriers getting promoted last day of the season. Getting promoted in the playoff, should I say? There's all sorts of happenings, you know, and it's nice to be recognised to have that positive input to a certain extent. You know, a lot of people think that you got sacked because it was a negative influence or a negative input, but it wasn't the case, you know. And when you, I'm being, I suppose, a little bit tongue in cheek here. When you mention the word legend, I was only at Kidderminster Harriers for probably just over a year, maybe 18 months. But I really enjoyed my time there, and I left on a sour note, to tell you the truth, because we lost the last game of the season and just failed to get automatic promotion, which was obviously the target. And having said that, I've watched them probably 3 or 4 times this year. Came against them obviously at Peterborough Sports. Wanted to beat them because that's the competitor, kind of competitive edge in me. There's no doubt about it. But I'm in the opposing manager's dugout, so I wanted to beat them. And we did at our place, and then you murdered us at Kitty. But it was good to see. It really was. It was great to see. I watched them a couple of times in the running, where you really hit form at the right time. You know, people talk about momentum and stuff like that. But I watch you at Telford, and you absolutely, you know, having gone a goal down, I thought you played them off the park, and then you played us off the park, and the rest history type thing, you know. But no, I'm not. I've not made any contact, and they've not made any contact with me. Would I consider it? I went in at Peterborough Sports as the manager, came out of it as director of football. Is it the right job for me? I don't know. I don't particularly know at this moment in time. But I just love being involved in football. I love being involved in talking to supporters, recognising people's passion for the game. And then if they can equate to my passion, then I'm the man for the job. But no, the answer to that in a long-winded way is no.
Fantastic. Well, Phil, we're going to go right back to the start of your career, obviously up in the North East. Who did you follow as a youngster?
I followed Sunderland Football Club. I was a fanatic, if truth be known. You could call me an ultra if you wanted to. You know, it was. I don't quite particularly subscribe to that word. I like the word firm. You know, back in the day, it was you had firms, didn't you? You had people that you go to, people that you followed in terms of the supporters, and I travelled, you know, far and wide to follow Sunderland. My dad tried to get me to support Newcastle. I went to Newcastle. I was in the Gallagher end on my dad's shoulders. In the 1967, 68, I think it was, when they played Wheat Just Dozer in the Fairs Cup. It was called the Fairs Cup then. And there was 70,000 supporters there, you know. It was just an unbelievable atmosphere. But it just wasn't for me. I don't know why. I was 8, 9-year-old, and my dad was trying to hand feed the black and whites to me. And then my mother started taking me, strangely enough, to Sunderland in the FA Cup run, 1973, which culminated obviously beating Leeds United at Wembley, and that was the moment I fell in love with Sunderland. Was I destined to be a football player or a football manager? No, I had trials with Sunderland when I was 18 and failed on that front. I was going through my apprenticeship as an electrician, and I just carried on playing Sunday League football. Didn't think professional football was going to be my bag. And I signed the indenture forms to pick up me electrical engineering apprenticeship, and at the same time I signed a 5-year contract for Hartlepool United to become a professional footballer. So it was just a great moment in my life when I was 20-year-old, and I've never looked back, if truth be known. You know, I'm like 67 now, I'm still involved in the game. And it's just brilliant. I'm glad it's been at all levels, because the amount of people that can come up to me and ask me a question about what was it like non-league, what was it like part-time, but what was it like Premier League, you know? There's lots of people can ask me that question, but I'm just genuinely, I love football. That's all there is to it. I love football, and I'm glad I'm still involved.
And obviously, signing for Hartlepool as a youngster, obviously, nowadays you have the academies and all that system. What was that like, signing for Hartlepool?
It from Sunday league to professional football sounds hard to believe, but there was I had a pub team called the Red Duster, and we had probably 3 or 4 players who had trials at pro clubs. I remember Kevin Tron being you'll not know these names, these were just my mates. Kevin Tron, midfield player, he's a great player. Loved playing with him because he could take care of the ball, you know. A lad called Derek Dearden, striker, 6'1", quick, really quick. He had trials at a pro club, I think Bristol City. And Bobby Davison, remember Bobby Davison, who played for Derby County and had a great career as a player. I played with Bobby in the Sunday League, you know, so we had a good team. We were winning everything, you know, winning cups and leagues and stuff like that. But I just got spotted by a Hartlepool United director who was walking his dog on a Sunday afternoon and looked at our team and watched us and invited me down to train with the reserves on a Tuesday and Thursday night. Do you want to come and play for Hartlepool United? And that was as a non-contract player. You could actually sign non-contract forms then, which was, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was about 10 quid a week. I was getting £10 a week for to train on a Tuesday and Thursday night and play on a Saturday. And then one glorious Thursday evening, where the weather had hit the first team and they fell foul of the weather, they couldn't train on the Thursday daytime. They trained on the Thursday night time in the gym that we were training at, and we joined forces. And I was training with the first team. And on the Saturday I played. I was obviously good enough to, or did I stand out? I wasn't standing out as a bad egg. I was standing out as, my word, this lad can play at that level. And that was probably the biggest turning point in my career. The fact that the training had been scheduled for the daytime for the first team. They couldn't, so they came to the nighttime training session and trained with the reserves, and I played on the Saturday. Quite phenomenal actually. Peterborough United of all teams. I'm talking to you now about, I'm Peterborough Sports Director of Football, but Peterborough United was my first game, and I think we got beat 2-1, but I just, from that moment, it just spread wings and 5-year contract and had my apprenticeship turned into a electrician. So I was going in the right direction. But Hartlepool United, people can laugh at them. People can say, what, who? In the northeast, you had 5 clubs, and that was, you know, Sunderland, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Hartlepool and Darlington. And if you want to call the northwest, Carlisle United was the 6th one to a certain extent, but we felt as if we were out on a limb up in the northeast, you know, and that's the only part of the world that played football. And then eventually you get a move to Halifax Town and then realise there's a big old world out there, you know, a lot of football teams, and there's a lot of hotbeds of football, and the northeast was a hotbed, there's no doubt about it. But I had the luck more than anything that I signed for Hartlepool United at the right time when I realised the world of football. You know, when you're a 35-year-old and you're playing for Sunderland or Newcastle or Middlesbrough, you're 35, you're coming to the end of your career at the highest level, you maybe drop down to Hartlepool United or Darlington. And I had Bobby Kerr, who had lifted the FA Cup, walk into my changing room to be a Hartlepool United player, and I'm thinking, wow. And then I was travelling in the same car as Bobby Kerr. He's lifted the FA Cup for my team, and now I'm playing with him. It was unbelievable. So John Bird from Newcastle United. So I managed to bump into, you know, good experienced players that had played at the highest level, and they were coming down to my level, at the time 4th Division, and they were teaching me the tricks of the trade, as it were. I used to travel in with them, you know. And Ray Kennedy from Liverpool and Arsenal, absolute legend.
Yeah.
And he finished his career at Hartlepool United, and I'm like, I'm brushing shoulders with these guys. It was such a lucky, if you want to call it a lucky run, but it was such a good apprenticeship. Even though I wasn't an apprentice footballer, I was serving my time at 20 to 25 when I got this 5-year contract. And that was my apprenticeship. And then I went from that to Halifax, Bolton Wanderers and Blackpool. And I exercised the wisdom that had been passed on to me.
And it's really interesting what you said before about, the fact that you have managed at loads of different levels, you've played at loads of different levels. Like, from that time in the 80s when you were at Hartlepool, Halifax, are there many similarities between the game now, or is it just completely chalk and cheese?
Many similarities. The only thing that's probably similar was that it's 11v11 and it was a ball. But I think the modern day game has moved on so far. There's no doubt about it. It is, even if we go, when I was at Hull City, what kind of football were we playing? Well, it wasn't the kind of football that Man City are playing, or Pep Guardiola's been trying to educate everybody. And don't get me wrong, it's gone in the right direction. Everybody's trying to do it, but you've got to understand that there's only certain teams or certain levels can actually do that. And I don't mind trying to play, but there's an area on the pitch, in my opinion, if you've got a group of players, you recognise what them players are capable of on the training ground. And then when you take it into a game situation, it's your gonads on the line, as it were. You're the one that's putting them out there, and if you want to play five-a-side in your own penalty box, that's your call. But at the same time, if you recognise that the players are not good enough to do that, you've got to come to terms with that, and then they've got to come to terms with that. Listen, we're going to play this way. I'll play football, but from a certain starting point. And my starting point was quite invariably, if it was a quality ball into a striker, that's where we started. If it wasn't a quality ball into a striker, it became a 50-50 game, and the rest history, as it were, But playing football in your own 6-yard box, in your own 18-yard box with players who clearly can't, I just think that's madness.
Yeah, I agree. And when you're playing, obviously, for these clubs, are you consciously taking notice of what the manager and the coaches are doing, thinking, one day I might go into this level, or is it something that you've reflected back on?
Not conscious. I've reflected. Not consciously, I would have said subconsciously I was. I was fortunate, very fortunate, that I had a big gob. I had a big mouth, and I was made captain of Hartlepool United when I was 22, 23-year-old. But that big gob, big mouth got me into trouble. And what I mean by that is it got me into trouble from being if you're the captain of the club, you're the shop steward. And if you're going back to them days in the 70s and the 80s, shop stewards were flavour of the month because they were calling strikes and they had more power than you could ever imagine, But at the same time, when you've got that power and you're making the wrong calls, the guys who are in charge will eventually get you. I understood that, the politics of the game, the politics of football. But my big gob, if you want to call it, got me a captaincy at 22, 23-year-old, and it carried on. I went to Halifax Town, became captain there for 3 years. I went to Bolton Wanderers and walked into a changing room that was laden with captains. And it was a pre-season when I signed. And I signed for a manager who played in my position for 51 times for England, Phil Neal. Yeah. And my mother, who was advising me, she was the football person in our family. My mother said, if you're ever going to learn about your trade and your position, go to Bolton Wanderers. I mean, I had 3 or 4 clubs chasing me at the time. I was going through a good period, I'd got in the PFA team of the season on probably 4 or 5 occasions, and when I was at Halifax. So I was making a name for myself at 25, 26. And then I got this move under Phil Neal. But it wasn't a case of being spotted or being scouted by Bolton Wanderers. It was a case that we pulled Bolton Wanderers in the FA Cup. And we drew at the Shea. And then we went to Burnham Park and we drew there. So replay. And then they came back to the Shea and beat with 3-1. But all 3 occasions, Phil Neal was playing left back for Bolton Wanderers. So not his normal position, but he was playing left back. And there's this right back for the opposition just going past him and getting crosses in. And he just recognised that, and he thought, I want a piece of that in my football club. And I think he paid the grand total of £17,500 for me. It wasn't a club record by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a lot of money in them days.
And one thing I've noticed from us interviewing sort of players from this era is that they seem to stay at clubs, you know, for quite a long period, and that's certainly something that you did at Hartlepool, Halifax, and Bolton. Was that a financial thing, or was that something? It was just something of the time.
I think it was probably the lack of awareness, and what I mean by that is, you go on TV now. You've got Sky, you've got TNT, you've got all the big boys are fighting for games, but even down to the National League, you've got DAZN, and you've got literally any league in the world. You can actually get footage of games, and if you're a scout, you've got to watch them. You know, and I don't particularly subscribe to that. You know, videos and watching TV games. I subscribe to the old-fashioned scout that goes to games. Because I like the scratch and sniff exercises, you know, find out a little bit more about these people and find out a little bit more about how they play and the style of football. And you get to know about the characters a little bit more, because that's important. But at the same time, there was a lack of awareness, I would have said. There was a lack. A lot of clubs had scouts or chief scouts, and a lot of clubs probably had 5 or 6 regional scouts that probably worked for 3 or 4 clubs at any one given time, which is not really the way forward. You know, you've got to have... Don't get me wrong, inclusion is very important in the modern day game, but you had to have your own crew, you had to have your own group that were actually reporting back to the chief scout and then reporting back to the manager, because that's got to be important, because the manager's style had to fit the player that was coming in and vice versa. You know, the player that came in, our style had to fit theirs, and you know, there's all sorts of arguments why people succeed and why people don't succeed, but I really do believe in the scouting network of old, where you do go to see them 3 or 4 times if you possibly can. Not watch 3 or 4 videos, just go and see them 3 or 4 times. And then you're passing it up the chain. As the chief scout, you're saying to a couple of the coaching staff, go and see this player. Then you go to the assistant manager, go and see this player. Then you go to the manager, and you've ticked every box up until the manager goes to see him. And then I think that's a great way of scouting. Sitting in a factory with 75 students from, you know, a university watching screens of footage from South America is all well and good, don't get me wrong, is all well and good, and obviously it's a point proven by likes of Brentford and Brighton, etc., Bournemouth, the teams that can't afford to compete with Man City. But doing it that way, yes, is the way forward for sure, but eventually it has to come down to the manager seeing him, because that means the manager, if he's sanctioning the move, then he's got nobody to blame but himself. So when recruitment, you know, when people start shouting at, well, why we're losing games, it's the recruitment side of it. Manager holds his hands up and say, that's my fault.
Absolutely. And after Bolton, you made that move to Blackpool, where you're playing under Big Sam Allardyce. Is this where you first start thinking about your coaching career?
Just before that, I got the real nod of approval that I should be going into the game after I've retired. What I didn't realise what I had. You know, a leader in the change room, a captain, a loudmouth, or whatever. The leader of the team away from when the club has its eyes on you. You know, so going on functions and do's together and making sure we bond off the field of play as well as on the field of play. Back in the day, bonding was a few pints, of course it was, and that drew negative. That draws negative vibes now, or negativity, because it was all about alcohol in the 80s and the 90s. Unfortunately it was, but somebody had to go teetotal eventually, and the ones that were the big drinkers were Arsenal, and they went teetotal under Arsene Wenger and became champions, you know. So there was a way forward, or a train of thought, or a process that you could actually follow. You could emulate Arsenal, the 1-0 to the Arsenal under George Graham and everybody out on the beer afterwards. But then that brings its problems. But then when Arsene Wenger came in, he turned football around big time. And at the same time, you had a young Sam Allardyce that was doing the same in his way. You know, Arsene Wenger was coming in as a professor, and he was talking about sports science and this, that, and the other. He was banging the drum of vitamins and, you know, additives and stuff like that, and being teetotal and drinking water and the right temperature. All of that science was for Arsenal to boast about. But Bolton Wanderers under Sam Allardyce and Blackpool to their detriment, why they sacked Sam, I'll never know. But Bolton Wanderers got the benefit of Sam. And don't get me wrong, I was pushing for the job as well. You know, I'd moved from Sam at Blackpool to Bolton as a assistant manager under Colin Todd. But when Sam came back to the football club and we joined forces again, it has to be said it was a force to be reckoned with. You know, we had six or seven unbelievable years which ended up in Europe. But Sam was, I'm just so indebted to him to a certain extent for giving me the career I've got as a coach or a manager, because I learned an awful lot from him.
And when you both joined up at Bolton, obviously Bolton, you know, sort of the players they start signing in the early 2000s is unbelievable. No disrespect to Bolton, but you never imagine them start signing Djorkaeff and players like that. Behind the scenes, was that something that you actually thought was actually going to happen, or did it just happen? You know, was it just something spur of the moment?
No, it wasn't spur of the moment. It was planned for meticulously. It has to be said. You know, the amount of time we spent locked in we called it the war room. We locked ourselves in there, the backroom staff. Born out of what we did at Blackpool when we first came together. I've very proudly told this story that there's only 4 of us in the backroom staff at Blackpool, and it was myself in my first year as a coach, Sam in his first year as a manager, Mark Taylor in his first year as a physio, and Jack Chapman in his 40th year as a chief scout. So he had the experience and was telling us when we were talking rubbish, but at the same time, some of the rubbish became absolute gems, priceless, you know, because we were committed to it, you know, whatever we were suggesting. And sometimes it was madness, but whatever we were suggesting, it would always start, you know, if the suggestion comes out, it always starts with a laugh, and then you go, hold on a second, maybe there's something in that. And then when we thought there was something in it, we followed through. We actually gave it wings and it flew, but not so much at Blackpool. It was the starting point of Monday morning meetings, you know, what did the week look like, and getting ahead of the game and planning and preparing meticulously, but there was only 4 of us. But then we go to Bolton, and Sam was massive into backroom staff, massive. He came from his last year as a player in America. He came with an idea that he wanted one coach for every player. Now that one coach doesn't necessarily need to be a football coach. It can be any coach. It could be a coaching. You could teach a person how to dance, and that would improve their footwork on the field of play. Psychology. There was also stretching. There was all sorts of. There were coaches. There were educational people, sports scientists, if you want to call them that, psychologists. But it was to help the player, and it did immensely, and it turned good players into very good players, but it turned very good players into top, you know, like they were match winners. But we already had that mentality coming in with Yuri Yorka. You know, you don't just win a World Cup and you're lucky. You win a World Cup because you got the right mentality, without a shadow of a doubt. And France had the right mentality when Yorka was playing. But he was a freak of nature, Yuri. He was just a rare one of them freaks of nature that could actually train every day. He could train twice a day, he could run forever, but he could also slow down and make it look easy. It was just brilliant. And everyone tried to copy him. You can't. You couldn't emulate what Yuri was bringing to the party. But then JJ came to the party, Kocha and Fernando Hierro, and it's just unbelievable how Sam did that part, you know. But his negotiation skills were second to none.
And obviously you mentioning all these different players, absolutely love JJ Okocha, but you then obviously on this rise of Bolton, did you feel that behind the scenes that you were going to, you know, go through the Premier League and get into Europe?
We had the ambition to get to the Premier League. We had massive ambition, but if you're planning, you've got to dream. If you're dreaming, what are you dreaming about? You know, you've got to be dreaming about winning things, you know, winning titles. It's all right getting promoted to the Premier League, but what you've got to do, you've got to survive and stay there and hang in there, and then eventually you can't be just surviving, because it'll catch up with you, you know. You can't just be planning for to finish 17th every year. So every year we had fresh investment, you know, the money was going up the right way, you know, in terms of what was coming at you from the Premier League, and therefore the investment was becoming greater. But Sam was brilliant at whenever he sold a player, you know, Sam sold probably 3 or 4 players for about 3 or 4 million. You know, Ida Johnson, Klaus Jensen, Alan Thompson. You know, these players were going to Premier League teams, either in Scotland, whereas Tom went to Celtic. You know, so we got good money for him, and I think Klaus went to Charlton when they were flying high and got good money for him. Ida Johnson went to Chelsea. You know, so we were producing players. There's no doubt about it. But when they went there, he wasn't given the money to spend it in a transfer. He was clever enough to say to the chairman, "Give me a couple of $100,000 so I can invest in the training ground." Yeah. Well, why do you want to invest in the training ground? Well, the players who now are still there might be feeling a little bit aggrieved that one of the better players has left. So you appease that situation by, right, we've lost one of the key players, but we're going to improve what we've got here now. And he'd invest in the changing room and the training ground as a facility. And at the end of it, it became state of the art. And I think Wanderers in their plight when they were struggling financially, when Sam had left, when I had left, when Macca had left, sold the training ground to Wigan for 10, 11 million. And it was an old workingmen's club. That's how much it improved. But all that money that we invested in hadn't gone to waste. You know, you still got 10, 11 million back for it when the club was in trouble.
And Phil, I always thought, you know, with all those amazing players and names that you had there, I always thought that a pivotal point was Kevin Nolan. What was he like?
Kevin was a leader in a different way. He was a leader of men as a young man. He had a head on his shoulders that was way ahead of it, way ahead of his time. What I mean by way ahead of its time, he just felt as he could quite, you know, a lot of the times you walk into a change room, you need arrogance in football, of course you do. But that arrogance can sometimes overspill into people looking at him. Who do you think you are? Where Nobby was concerned, Nobby was playing, so therefore I'm part of this group because he's contributing on the field of play. But then when he was contributing off the field of play, people sometimes were looking at him like a Yorker, like a Fernando Hierro, like 35, 36-year-old. Nobby's in the same changing room as an 18, 19-year-old, and he's pitching in with a suggestion about something, you know, and you're going, hold on a second, he's got something there, and quite often he did have something. So we never really ignored anybody. We didn't really listen. You've got to be brave enough to speak up in them situations. One of the great stories that I love telling is when Sam had the biggest backroom staff in the Premier League. So, you know, regardless of whether you were the biggest team or the biggest budget or whatever, we had the biggest backroom staff. End of story. And there was 30, I think it was about 32 in the backroom staff when I'm chairing a Monday morning meeting. And Sam's chuckling away, laughing at the fact that there's 32 there. When we first started, there was 4. Mm-hmm. But you had to go round. As a chairman, I had to go round every person and you had to speak. What have you got to say? Doesn't matter who you are. You could be an under-16s coach in the academy. What have you got to say? And if you went 3 weeks without speaking, Sam would have noted that in his own head. And he'd say, if he doesn't speak next week, he's out. And he would cut you. He would cut you out. And I think that's right. You need to have inclusion. We certainly had that because the academy was there, the scouts were there, the doctors were there, you name it, they were there. But you had inclusion, therefore you had to have involvement. If you were just saying, no, I've got nothing, then that means you weren't contributing. That means you're not interested in what we were doing. And you're out. End of story.
And in 2005, Phil, you get your first sort of full-time manager's job at Derby. Is that something you were just ready for? Because you said you'd applied to sort of get the Bolton job a few years before. Were you just ready to go and do this?
I was ready for the Bolton job because I knew the environment of the Bolton changing room, the boardroom, the people, the supporters, the team, etc. So I was ready for that. I think because I'd done all my badges, and going back to, you know, when I first bumped into Sam, one of the other big people that I bumped into was Bruce Rioch, who advised me, he was the manager, I was the captain of Bolton. You cannot leave football at the end of it. He knew I was going to go into. I had businesses outside of the game, you know. I still had an electrical business on the go, I had a pub, a restaurant, a nightclub. I was going to go into that when I'd finished football, so I was paving the way for the end, because you were always told that the end would be 35. You were actually officially retired as a PFA member at 35-year-old. You got a pension. It's like, what? I was coming to a part of my time as a 35-year-old. I was thinking to myself, I still feel good here. Why am I retiring? And I didn't. I carried on playing until I was 38, 39. But Bruce said to me, start doing your badges, start doing your certificate of applied management. You've got too much to offer to walk away from this game. And so that was a big influence on me staying in the game, and then bumping into Sam at the same time, or just after that. Two big players in my life. And it's probably one of the main reasons why I decided, after 5 or 6 years at Bolton Wanderers in Europe, why did I walk away? Well, I've done my job. I now want to fulfil what I am, and I think I'm a manager. And a couple of times me and Sam had talked to arguments, but listen, we're best of mates. So if you're not best of mates, you find out in them moments, that right, we've had an argument, let's go out for a pint and chew the fat about something else. It's there was a couple of moments when Sam was actually telling me, listen, shut up, I'm the manager. And I understood that part, that everybody has to see that. Everybody has to know that. You can't buy in, you can buy into it, but you can't impinge on it, because it just deflates it, it makes it weaker. So the strength of us was the fact that I knew I was number 2. I knew I was the assistant manager. But the strength of Sam was, he knew I wanted to be a manager. And that made us quite a force, quite a force. And when we had the third in line was Neil MacDonald, Macca had ambitions to be he had ambitions to be an assistant manager. So I had pressure from Macca, He was keep asking me, are we really doing this? Why are we doing it? All of these questions were really testing every day, but without them, you don't become who you are. So when I became the Derby County manager, Sam had put me. I had put him down as my referee on me on your CV, and they looked at that. They didn't even phone him up. They just knew, well, if Sam's recommending him, then he must be the man for the job. I applied for 3 jobs where we were together. I knocked at the door at Burnley, and I think Steve Cottrell got that one. I knocked at the door at West Bromwich Albion, and Brian Robson got that job. And then when Derby County came along, I jumped on the back of George Burley leaving. He wasn't sacked, George. He left because he couldn't work with the director of football. And so I always try and gather the information. So I spoke to George, and George said, "You'll find it difficult. He's a this, that, and the other. He'll do this, he'll do that, he'll do whatever. Very clever man, but very driven by money and this, that, and the other." So I got the reference about the guy that I was going to be working with very closely, and he was right. He was right. It was a problem. Murdo Mackay, and he eventually got jail. He got jail for all the shenanigans that were going on in the background. Literally about a month after I got the sack. So I got the sack, and all the Derby County fans will tell you, "Oh, he's the worst manager," and this, that, and the other. If they knew what I was going through, even to this day, I'm saying I was fighting the cause for the future managers, because I had to get this guy out of the way for the future managers, because he was ruining the club. He was spending money that they didn't have, and it was fraudulent. And I'm not saying anything above or out of order. He got jail, literally. So, I was proven right where that's concerned, but Derby County fans won't thank me for that.
So, obviously, you take that Derby manager role, but what is the big difference between being an assistant to then having the reins yourself?
Massive difference. The pressure is not on an assistant manager at all. You are, I make reference to when you're at war. You imagine being on the front in the battle, and you put your head above the parapet. That's what a manager does, but he keeps it above the parapet, and eventually he goes over the top, and he gets at the enemy that way. That's literally what a manager's doing. leads from the front, will be the first one to be shot. But he keeps his head above the parapet. That's what you have to do. As an assistant manager, you're ducking. You can put your head above the parapet every so often, but you put it back down. But it's metaphorical. It's not a case you're ducking deliberately. It's just nobody wants to know.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to know anything about the football club, the microphone goes in the manager's face, and they ask him. They won't go and ask the assistant manager, because he won't know, because he doesn't know what it's like. And then when you are the manager and you've been there, you've seen it and done it, you either want to continue doing it and until you die, and that's the guy you're looking at now, or you don't. You go back down to ducking your head below the parapet, and that's what first team coach, assistant manager, quite a few. You know, the ones that put their heads above the parapet are the chairman or the owner, not even the owner sometimes, the chairman and the manager. The rest are all, I wouldn't dare say the word minions, but the rest are all helpers. They're helping to keep your head above that parapet and making sure that we win enough games to make sure that you grow up here, as it were, you know. But they're very important backroom staff. I'm not belittling them or decrying them at all. They're very, very important. But there's only one or two people in a football club that put their heads above the parapet to be shot at.
And obviously, then you go into, after the short spell at Derby, you go into Hull and then you become their manager.
Yeah.
And amazing, you get them promoted in the playoff final and keep them up in the Premier League, which, as we know, this day and age, teams that come up and staying up is a hard thing to do. Those two achievements must go down as two of the biggest, Phil, in your management career.
Yeah. Relatively speaking, I'm really... I would have said, happy with the assessment, but at the same time, it doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter what level you're at. Getting promotion with Southend in the playoffs. Loved it. Great achievement. Surviving campaigns, you know, of late, I've took a couple of survival campaigns and managed to do that. And it's a great achievement because you're turning a group of players that are struggling in terms of confidence, you know, and struggling to play in a certain way, and results tell you that you're going to inherit a side that are down in the dumps and down in their luck, and how do you turn that one round? And then they see this lunatic come in the change room, start banging a drum about positivity and doing this and doing that and doing the other, and then they jump on board, and next thing you know, you've got a good team. So there's lots of achievements that I've made within my career, but obviously the most glorified, the most thought of, and you know, probably defines me when people talk to me. And going to Wembley on a week Saturday, and hopefully going to Wembley on a week Sunday as well, with Bolton and Stockport. It's great. It's great to just go there and be a part of it. You know, whether it doesn't matter whether you're a supporter, whether you're on the bench, whether you're playing, whether you're the manager, or whether you're going there as a reporter to talk about it. I really enjoyed going to Hull and Millwall on Monday night. It was like being in the manager's dugout, but you're not. You're in the press box. But I felt everything that he was feeling because I'd been there and I've done that, and it was a lovely feeling. It really was a lovely feeling. But it's a good time at the moment. It's a good time.
And obviously you have Dean Windass scores the winning goal at Wembley. He's a bit of a character of the OOs, the Naughties. What was
my kind of person, that Matt? Is that what you mean? A bit of a character.
He like to manage, Phil?
Dean's easy to manage. Dean Windass is easy to manage, and what I mean by that is all he wants to do, and I mean all he wants to do, is please you. All he wants to do is play. And when you don't, that's the hard part of managing Dean. You've got to keep him motivated, even though he's sitting on his backside or sitting on his hands. And that's really difficult because the gremlins, you know, descend on Dean quite quickly. And I've had that situation many, many times. But he's a 5-year-old boy still playing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's one of them. You've got to understand when you're dealing with your kids, you're dealing with Dean. And that's not being disrespectful of him, because at the end of the day, he's had a fabulous career. And and he's he ain't a bad after dinner speaker neither. You know, there's a couple of times I've heard him, I thought hello. But he's had a great career, and I think it was the highlight of his career without a shadow of a doubt. It was either when he volleyed the ball or when he was having a pint of Guinness for breakfast the next morning with his manager. Because I'm telling you, that's what we were doing. We had a pint of Guinness and some cornflakes, and it was it's just a great moment. And I think characters have probably defined me, only because that's what I thought I was when I was a player. I thought the character of the changing room was important. And if you've got enough characters in there that are all pointing in the right direction, then your team plays with character, you know. And what I mean by character, sometimes you weigh up a team at the end of the season. Have they won a title? No, but how many times have they won a game when they've been losing? Or how many times have they got something from a game when they've been losing? Is that the defining part of them? And then all of a sudden you get them a couple of extra players the following season, they get promoted. Character is so important in football.
Massively.
Quality is important, discipline's important, commitment's important. There's lots of big words, but character for me, the more you have, I think the worse it can be, because they can pull in different directions depending on what kind of character you're talking about. But if you've got two or three that are just in different areas of the changing room, what I mean by that is the older group, the middle group, the younger group, or possibly the background of them, or possibly the ability levels of them, you know. But if they're in the team and your team is playing with character under pressure, then they were my kind of change rooms.
And talking about character, obviously we've got to talk about the famous half-time team talk, and then Jimmy Bullard replicated it after. Just, I know you've probably talked about it millions of times, Phil, but just talk us through it and sort of why you did it and how you found Jimmy sort of doing the celebration the year after.
Well, I've just I'm sick of talking about it. I'm not sick of talking about it, because at the end of the day, I'm talking about definition now, and that part probably defined me. Why did I do it? A culmination of things. Why I did it was two players that were playing from the start had broken the rules, that they were worse for wear the day before, you know, Christmas Day, because it was a Boxing Day venue at Man City. And I didn't get to find that out till 5-3. If the worst case scenario, the madness might have descended, if it had been 4-3, 10-3, I might have made the changes. And straight away that sends messages around the stadium. It would be reverberating what's going on there. Has there been a fight in the change room? All of that kind of stuff. So when Brian Horton whispered to me these two players were out the day before, the night before, and I looked at him, I said, how long you known that? He said, I've just heard. So I couldn't do anything about it, so I sat down and watched a really poor performance, a lacklustre performance, which was really uncharacteristic of Hull City, or Phil Brown, if you like. It was a poor performance. We're 4-0 down. I didn't take anything into consideration, i.e. the financial implication of, you know, Manchester City. Forget about the financial fair play problems that they've got. They had one player that was worth twice as much as my budget. I didn't even take any of that into consideration. I just felt like it was a Sunday League performance, and I've told you about where I started. If it's a Sunday League performance, you sit in the middle of the pitch, you get a half an orange thrown at you and maybe a cup of tea, and you get two drunken idiots screaming blue murder at you because they've been on the drink all weekend, and it's a Sunday League game, so they've had a couple of pints before the game, and they're just worse the way, and they start shouting at you. They probably felt that I was exactly that, the players. What is happening here? But when I broached the subject to Brian Horton, he just said, absolutely, do it. And Steve Parkin went, ooh, no. I said, why? He said, you're just blowing the changing room wide open. And I went, right, okay. So I had to make a decision. But I'm asking them questions about 38, 39 minutes on the clock. And we were 4-0 down. And we came in 4-0 down, but we didn't come in. I just said to Ian Ashby over there in front of the supporters. And he knew what I was doing, Ashby. Club captain the club from second, first, championship. and now he's in the Premier League. And if he was the kind of person that would say, no chance, I'm not doing that, I would have probably ended up in the changing room. But he just turned around straight away, and I thought, I'm doing it. This is right. But it was right for us. You know what I mean? Forget about me. It was right for us. And then you're talking 15, maybe 16 years ago, probably longer. And people are still asking me to do it. You know, I got a request from Sky. About 2 weeks back. Would you come and manage a Sunday League team? And I said, what's the script? He went, yourself and Sean Dyche going head to head, opposing Premier League managers going head to head. I said, yeah, I'll have a bit of that. And we went there, and we were behind screens in the first half. They'd no idea we were there. And then half-time whistle went, and we went out to meet our respective teams. And I had to do my team talk on the pitch. Sean Dyche was in the changing room. So what his went like, I've no idea, but I know what mine went. Like, the cameras were all over. There's about 6 cameras all over it, just trying to get a half-time team talk. So you're talking about definition of a manager. Did that define me? Did the playoffs against Bristol City define me? You know, it just, a lot of people, does your points return define you? Your percentage win ratio, does that define you? All of them things are numbers, but from a character perspective, I suppose that defines me. Sunday League football weren't good enough. Half-time team talk on the pitch, survived in the Premier League.
Absolutely. And then obviously it happens. When Jimmy scores that penalty, do you know what he's going to do?
No. We prepared better than the first one, than the actual one. What I'm saying by that is, I gave them Christmas Day off, and we turned up Boxing Day and had a pre-match meal in the hotel. This one was different. We went over to Manchester on the Friday night, and by all accounts, Jimmy, Nicky Barmby and Ashby and all that, you know, they all had a card school going. There was like 6 or 7 of them just playing cards, and they decided on the night time that if we score, what about doing this as a celebration? I knew nothing, honestly. I knew nothing of it. And we were 1-0 down. But it was a Hull City performance. It was a Phil Brown performance, if you like. It was full of, well, we're not lying down here. We realise that they're a good side, but, you know, we were still in the game, 1-0. We were well and truly still in the game. And, yeah, they had chances, to bury the game, but they didn't. And it was 1-0, and it was coming to the latter stages of the game, and then we get a penalty. Whew, here we go. And then Jimmy had forgot the arrangement that they'd had the night before. Forgot all about it. So he was away to the supporters just to the left-hand side of the goal. He'd scored the penalty, and he was away just pointing towards them, and everyone's shouting, Jimmy, half-time team talk. so he just spun on his head, like, you know, and he just said, oh, yeah, forgot. So they all sat down around him, and he conducted him like a Phil Brown and all that crap. And then I didn't even see it. I really didn't see it, Matt. I was grabbing one of the players as they were coming back. I was celebrating, of course, but I was making changes. I was trying to get us over the line because I was going to take a striker off. I think we were playing 4-4-2. I was going to take a striker off and go 4-5-1. But that 4-5-1 would have included Jimmy Bard in the middle of the park. And Jimmy in terms of discipline, when you say Jimmy Bullard in discipline, it doesn't go hand in hand, you know. So I'm thinking, how do I get right? So I'm talking to Richard Garcia, and I said to Garth, listen, I'm going to take Caleb Foley, and I can't remember who it was. One of the strikers. I'm going to take one of the strikers off. I'm going to put an extra midfield player in the middle of the park. We're 5. We're not 3. We're not 2. We're 5 in midfield to try and get us over the line. And he said, with Jimmy in there. And he has a point. He knew his players. And I went, just tell Jimmy he's a number 10. As soon as you give the number 10 to Jimmy, whoa, I'm the player now, you know, I'm Brazilian all of a sudden. So just tell Jimmy he's number 10. So sure enough, we went 4-5-1 and got over the line. And camera crews again in my face. As soon as we got a point, because it was 5-1 the year before, half-time team talk disaster. forget about survival. Everyone thinks disaster. And then we're at Man City again, and we're 1-1 against a team that probably had invested twice as much again.
Yeah.
And we had Jimmy Bollard, who was 5 million. So we moved on, and then as I'm going down the tunnel, BBC were grabbing me, and Sky and you name it. What are you going to do? Did you see that? What are you talking about? Did you see that? Did you see the celebration of goals? I hadn't seen it, honestly. I had not seen it. So I went in the changing room, and the changing room in Man City now, they were massive, but they were split with a partition, like a screen, and had your staff to the left-hand side, then the biggest changing room in the world, even with the staff in the same changing room, biggest changing room, and it was to the right-hand side. And I'm watching this video on the laptops, the sports scientist laptop, and I'm watching a video of the celebration, and the changing room was deathly silent. It was you could hear a pin drop. It was deathly silent, and all of a sudden, the players just heard my voice, and I was laughing. I was just laughing my head off. I just couldn't believe. I can't believe what Jimmy's done here. So I walked in the change room, and they're all sitting there, and they're waiting for a reaction. I said, "Brilliant, Jimmy! You got the monkey off me back. You got the monkey off me back." And it hasn't. It hasn't. I haven't escaped anything with regards to that, but it's probably enhanced it 100-fold because Jimmy Bullard did it.
Wow, fantastic. And Phil, obviously from Hull, you have a spell at Preston, and then you have a really successful long spell at Southend, and as we touched upon earlier, Kidderminster. When you've managed at the Premier League, is it hard to adapt to that level, or do you feel at home in all levels?
When I walked into the Kidderminster Harriers change room, I looked at the experience that we had. You know, we had some good players there. Luke Summerfield, been around the block a few times. Amari Morgan-Smith, Christian Dibble, Ashley Hemmons. You know, we had some really experienced players, and I respect that. You know, I think myself, they're looking at me for leadership. They're looking at me for inspiration. They're looking at me for a plan. And I'm looking at them for buy-in. I'm looking at them four that I've mentioned there, probably one or two others in there, but I'm looking at them four in particular, David Davis being another one. And you're looking for them to buy in before the young ones, or the energy players, the ones that can run, the ones that can get about. And when I had buy-in from them, then they started recognising who I was, more importantly what I was. Forget about who you are. You're not a Premier League manager anymore. You know, you're a National League North manager at that moment in time. But it's one of the changing rooms. There's probably 4 or 5 changing rooms that I've been in, and it can be at the same club. When a changing room changes personnel, you know, it's still it's Hull City changing room, if you like, but the changing room when I first went in there with the likes of a John Parker in there, to a changing room that had Ian Ashby right the way through, but it's now got Dean Windus in there. And you know, do you know what I mean? Your changing room is still Hull City, but it's changing, and the personalities are changing, the way you think and the way you play and the way you are and the way you behave. That's all changing, but that's down to the fact that these are the players I wanted to bring in to replace these. So I probably had 4 or 5 changing rooms that I really feel comfortable walking in. I walk in there and I can express myself with anything that I want to say, and I can talk about anything. And Kidderminster Harriers was one of them. Really was. Born out of the fact that Christian Dibble's father I played with.
Oh, wow.
You know, so I can equate to what he's been drilled at home for the last 20 years. I'm now getting his son, who was just a chip off the old block. You know, what a goalkeeper, top draw. Amari Morgan-Smith has run through brick walls for every manager he's ever been with. And what a great trade for a number 9 that is. And he's got his best mate alongside him who can play, Ashley Hemmons. And I'm not saying Amari can't, but if you hit Amari, it'll stick. And then he's got people that can move around him. And then you've got young lads that have been cast aside by Aston Villa and, you know, the bigger clubs, and you're in the middle of the Midlands, and you're just getting the benefit of that, you know. I was out in the limb in the northeast. You're in the middle, you're in the heart of the country. And it doesn't matter where they're coming from. It could come from London. It's only an hour and a half, 2 hours away maximum. But it was the change room that I really felt comfortable in. And that's got nothing to do with the level. That's just all about personality. That's all about people.
Yeah. And just before we finish on Matt's quick fire questions, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're sort of up to at the moment, Phil?
I became director of football for a purpose. I'm not too sure whether the ageing manager still exists, but he's still got a lot to offer. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Martin O'Neill. I'm talking about Neil Warnock. I'm talking about people that have gone back in, you know. And you think to yourself, at 66, 67, you're only a young pup. You're only a young pup. I can't for 1 minute imagine that your experience can ever be undermined or frowned upon, because it's, regardless of whether it's good, bad or indifferent, it's experience, you know. So I had the opportunity to support a manager if he wanted it, by taking a step sideways from being the manager, and went director of football just to keep me facing, keep me eyeing type thing. I enjoyed it, but I'm not sure about it. I feel like, you know, director of football is a position between the chairman and the manager, whereas I've always been that person. I've been quite open with chairman about whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm thinking. If it's madness, it's madness. If he thinks it's madness, we move on and the rest will be history. But I'm currently director of football. I'll probably be moving away from that in the next couple of months, and I'm doing a lot of media work at the moment with the finals, and hopefully with the successful teams that I've managed in my past. Yeah. It'll be a great end to the season. Kidderminster started off, so I'm hoping Hull City, Bolton Wanderers. I wish it was Sunderland, but Sunderland had a great season anyway.
Massively. Right, quick fire questions on them, Phil. Best ground that you've ever played or managed in?
Anfield.
How come?
I played against Liverpool in a FA Cup replay, and we drew 2-2 at Burnton Park in the FA Cup when I was about 29, 30 year old. And we then went to Anfield on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, and we took a crew. We took about 10,000 with us, and we beat them 2-0. And I always remember celebrating in front of the Anfield Road and with the 10,000 Bolton supporters. But when I turned round, there was probably still 20,000 Liverpool fans in the Kop. And we all walked up to the end of that pitch, and they were applauding us because we hadn't kicked Liverpool off the pitch. As a first division club, we hadn't kicked them off the pitch. We'd actually played them off. Not saying we were absolutely outstandingly passing them off the park. I'm saying we played football against them and beat them 2-0. So that has great memories for me. And then I've been there as a coach, and I've been there as assistant manager, and I've been there as a manager. I just love the place.
Brilliant. Best player that you ever played against?
Oh, it's probably in. I would have said it's probably in training. When I used to take training at Bolton Wanderers, because I'm living the dream then. You know what I mean? Because I was a second division, first division footballer. I didn't play much higher, and you know, when you talk about the career, Bolton was my highest club. But on the training ground, Peter Beardsley, dear me, trying to get the ball off him. And then you think he's the best player that England's ever produced with regards to how quick his feet were, and then you come up against JJ Okocha, and he's not even on the same planet. So it was Peter Beardsley at first, but then JJ took over. So I'm sorry for dropping them two big names in, but I'm going to stick with them because I played against them. Definitely played against them.
It's not a bad two, that. The best period in your career?
Best period was the cup runs under Bruce Rioch. I mean, we managed to get promotion from the second division to the first, and then I missed out by a year when we got promotion to the Championship, and I'd moved on to Blackpool. But it was, we went on cup runs. We went to Anfield, beat Liverpool at Anfield. We went to Highbury, beat Arsenal at Highbury. We went to Goodison Park, beat Everton at Goodison Park. We beat Aston Villa at Burnden Park. This was over a couple of years where he just had this way of beating the bigger teams. We got to the semi-final of the FA Cup and we got beat off Oldham at Burnden Park. Can you believe it? We got beat off Oldham at Burnden Park and they played Man United in the final.
Good thing. Best manager that you played for and best player that you ever managed?
Best manager I ever played for? It would have to be Bruce Rioch. But I played for Sam as well, like, you know, albeit it was player coach. And I've learned more from Sam than what I did from Bruce. I learned as a player what it was like under Bruce. So he was the best manager I'd played for. And then working with Sam, without a shadow of a doubt, the best manager I've ever worked with. But what was the second part?
Best player that you ever managed?
She got me. Well, I did manage a Kocher because I took him to Hull at the end, and but he was at the end of his career as well, like, you know. So as an assistant manager, it would be a Kocher, but as a manager, Nicky Barmby would be up there, you know.
Yeah.
Nicky Barmby,
Good player. Yeah.
yeah.
Fantastic, Phil. That's a great way to finish, Phil. It's been a joy. Really, really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Phil.
No problem.
No, brilliant. Thanks for your time, Phil.
Thanks very much, Matt. Cheers, Rob.
Take care. Bye. I hope you all enjoyed the interview with Phil Brown. Great tan, gotta say as well. So, not sure where you've been holidaying, Phil, but no, really good interview. I really enjoyed that.
Cheers, Phil.
So we're on to our next World Cup,
Yeah.
Germany 2006. So a lot of my friends who I started going to the England games with went to this tournament.
Right.
They said it was really good. Obviously, it's not too far away, is it?
Yeah.
We go into it as this golden generation, and if I'm honest with you, I know it seems to annoy some of the players now from back then, but the squad was unreal.
It was, and what makes this even more interesting looking back, which I think we'll cover on the next World Cup, which I've got a slight complaint about. This one we are coming back on the back of Euro 2004, where we're unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got some run us through some of the players.
So let's start. It starts at Germany.
Yeah.
You know, it's in Germany, which to me is a proper football nation.
Yeah.
It's not that far away.
2-hour flight.
Yeah, it's close. There's some really, you know, you got some amazing players in there. You've got your Zidans and your Rooney's and your Maldinis, I think, and Vieiras, and just some brilliant players. England go into it, and just some of our players. So you're talking, John Terry.
Yeah, what would be the 11? It was
Robinson in goal.
Gary Neville.
Ferdinand, Terry, Ashley Cole. You've got a midfield of Beckham, Joe Cole, Scholes. Gerrard, Lampard.
Hargreaves as
well. And I think Carrick has a really good game now. And then you've got Rooney and Mike Owen up front.
But I think Crouch starts the first game, doesn't it? Or is it the second game when Mike Owen gets injured?
So straight away, the first thing is, but they have this big thing, they take Theo Walcott, who has been signed from Southampton Arsenal and never played a game.
Crazy decision.
So Owen gets injured and they've left Defoe out. So
and Darren Bent.
Yeah, and Darren Bent. So you're like, that's Sven, you know, you've lost the plot a bit there. So that's one thing. But still, we've got, I think collectively the best players as a team.
Out of all the nations?
I think so, yeah. Probably maybe France as well. But as a team, we've got the best left back.
Yeah.
We've probably got the best two centre halves at the time.
Yes.
You've got one of the best free kick takers and crossers. Probably two of the best strikers.
Two of the best midfielders.
So
you've convinced me.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
So we start off where we play, and I don't think it's vintage. I think we played Paraguay in the first game. Is it? I think in our group, Paraguay, Trinidad, Tobago, and Sweden.
Paraguay's the
Beckham free kick, but I think it's been hard. But it's just fine, you get over the line.
Trinidad and Tobago were rubbish until crouch balls, the dreads, and heads it in.
Yeah.
And then the Sweden game, we actually played well in.
One of the best, and I think this goal gets forgotten about. One of the best England goals ever. You play well, but we're not lost. We've got 2 wins and a draw. You're happy. On paper, Sweden is the hardest one. So we're doing really well. But I think Michael Carrick has a really good game, one of them, but he won't play him again.
Sweden.
Yeah, he's trying to sort of fit players in. But it gets to the end of the group, and it's like they're not getting the headlines. The Wags are, which is really
the Wags
really
and Neville. It's brilliant.
Aaron Neville's dad. Yeah.
So we've both watched the documentary recently, haven't we? And they were spending something like 40 grand a night in Baton. It's only a little village town, and I think the Italian restaurant that they were going to still living off the back of it.
Yeah. What I will say is, I don't think having the Wags there is the difference between winning the World Cup.
No, but again, it's that media frenzy, isn't it?
But if anything, it's good because for once the players aren't getting the blame. They're not going to go at the players. No.
Rooney's not fit again. We're doing it again.
Rooney's not fit, is he? He comes on in the second game, does he?
Yeah, every tournament.
Yeah.
There's somebody unfit.
Yeah.
Michael Owen obviously does his knee.
So not only have we not took another striker, Rooney is injured already going,
So you've only got Crouch as your fully fit striker. And to be fair, he has a good tournament, but...
Yeah. So who are some of the backup players then?
So Carragher plays a lot of right back. You've got, Ledley King of Sol Campbell, centre half.
Right, okay, they're decent backups.
They're decent. I reckon you've got David James and maybe a Scott Carson, third choice. But then your midfielders, you've got... I think he gets really disrespected. Hargreaves, who's obviously won the Champions League.
And a good World Cup before.
He has a good World Cup in this one as well.
Yeah.
Carrick, I think Genus is going. You've then got players like Aaron Lennon comes on. He has a good tournament coming on. So you've got a decent squad actually.
Yeah.
It's not just the 11 there.
And Owen gets injured.
Squad.
Is that the Sweden game?
Sweden.
On, and that's it. You just, it sort of seems to be the start of his. And you're thinking in the big games, if you've got him and Rooney fit, you've got a massive chance. Yeah. And who are so at this time? So we obviously get through to play Ecuador. What else? You'll probably remember this better than me. What else is happening in the tournament up to this time?
So this tournament's really interesting in terms of it's the first tournament of Messi, Ronaldo, and then the keeper from Mexico, and they're all still playing now. They've gone to their, I think, sixth World Cup, which is crazy.
Unbelievable, yeah.
You've obviously got the run from France, as they all know it's Zidane's last tournament, on the back of 2002 when they, have the group stage exit.
Yeah.
You've then got the fascinating story of Italy, who are coming on the back of the referee scandal in Serie A. So Juventus get relegated that season.
Was that then?
Yeah, Del Piero and Cannavaro and all those players, and they kind of rally around and get through. You've then got a bit like what we were saying with the France in '96. You've got the Germany team, their first kind of real emergence. You've got players like Podolski coming through, Lahm, Schweinsteiger, and they have a really good tournament. I think they get to the semi-finals and lose to Italy next time. And then you've also got Portugal and Nemesis. And you know what? Their players are... They're playing at Barcelona, Porto, who just won the Champions League, and Chelsea. And you've got some top players there. Carvalho, Deco, Figo, Ronaldo. So it's for me, I think this tournament particularly has got the most idols.
Do you know what it felt like to me? It felt like the last World Cup of that sort of type, that era. They'd all seem,
Bring that
one
R9.
country, or one country. It all seems very. And I know to one of the guys who went to it. It felt like it was the sort of the emergence of the fan parks as well, but it definitely felt like a bit more old World Cup-y before you go into sort of, it's in Europe, and it did. England are through. I mean, they don't have it. It's not a bad draw, is it? Ecuador. You've had Paraguay, Trinidad and Tobago, and Sweden and Ecuador. It's not bad.
The Beckham free kick that's now an own goal, is it, or something like that?
Yeah. So England get through. I can't remember too much about that game.
Boring game. I think. I want to say it's a midweeker as well.
What was good though, it wasn't. You didn't have anything through the night, did you? Because
No.
it was local time as well. So we beat Ecuador, and then we get to the quarter-final, Portugal. So we've played Portugal in Euro 2000 in the group.
Lost.
2004 we lose penalties. Now we've got them again. And is this Winky one?
It is the Winky
Do you like what I did there? Winky one?
Yeah.
So this is Portugal. Now, we seem to play again really well.
We're a weird team, aren't we? We play terrible against these teams who you think we should beat, and then against the ones where it's a bit 50-50 or, I still think we should have beat them.
But can't get it over the line.
Can't get it over the line. And I think that's down to the players and playing them.
So what was the score in the game?
0-0.
Was it 0-0? It was 0-0.
Yeah.
I think this was like a Saturday lunchtime, afternoon.
I want to say it was an evening.
No, I think it was a Saturday afternoon. Because I think I was where I was working. I was off on that Saturday.
No, never.
I think so. Yeah.
We play well though, don't we?
We play well.
You obviously get the.
Is this Ashley Cole against Ronaldo again?
Yeah, but I think he's playing on the left, and I think Gerrard and Neville do a good job against
Obviously,
him.
Rooney gets sent off.
And it is a sending off.
It is, yeah.
It's not like the Beckham 198.
No. But it's interesting the wink they're playing together, aren't they, at the time?
That's got to be an interesting first training
Definitely, yeah. You imagine Fergie stepped in before and sort of smoothed it. But it's literally it's getting boring now. Penalties, you just don't fancy us.
Ronaldo scores the winning one.
Yeah,
I think Carragher has to retake one.
Yes, he scored. He had to retake. You're right.
I think Carragher missed, Gerrard missed, and Lampard. And you'd expect Gerrard and Lampard to take it.
Because I think they'd missed one or two as well. It wasn't a great time to shoot out.
They hit one wide, didn't they?
And you just think we go on to not qualify this tournament. I think it's Sven finishes, Beckham steps down as captain. It feels like we're not going to have a squad as good as this again.
No. It's just disappointing, isn't it?
Really disappointing.
But what we do really well, and I think we've done this throughout our history, when we're backed against the wall, we do well, don't we?
Yeah.
We go down 10 men, I think it's quite early on as well.
Yeah.
And we just, we have chances as well, Crouch,
yeah.
Oh.
So we're out.
Yeah.
Golden Boot is closer, which he was okay, but it feels a bit like...
Still the top scorer, though.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not one of the big players.
Yeah.
But it's a Germany player. The final. I mean, you could argue, obviously, France as good or better, but Italy's in the final. And you just feel like these teams aren't as good as our players. It is so disappointing.
It is. France have a really good run, actually. They beat Spain, Portugal, and then obviously get to the final.
Yeah, it's 1-1.
I think this is the most iconic World Cup final ever.
Because of the
Zidane. Yeah. And the chip, the penalty.
Yeah.
The gold boot, walking past your last ever game was in a World Cup final.
So we hear these debates, the debate's always Ronaldo and Messi, but then people will say, oh yeah, what about original R9? I have to say,
he's right.
Zidane is in that conversation. Yeah. Zidane is one of the best players, and it was quite sad for what happened. Is it Materazzi?
Yeah, but Materazzi scores the goal as well.
Yeah, so I remember him playing for Everton in the 90s. Yeah. I think he'd said something about Zidane's mom or something, and he just headbutts him in the chest.
Zidane obviously didn't go to English school, did he? he'd have been well averse.
And
to
it
that.
seems a headbutt in the chest seems to be like brothers fighting.
Yeah.
What you do. I've never seen someone headbutt in the chest in a pub.
It is a proper headbutt.
Yeah,
though.
it is.
It is tough.
And he is, you're going into the tournament, he's the player, isn't he? One of
Yeah.
the best players I've ever seen in my
think-
generation.
Trezeguet misses the penalty, and off the top of my head, I want to say it's the left back Grosso who scores it.
How would you rate Sven as England manager?
Ooh, I would say 01 to 04, quite good. 04 onwards, terrible, I think.
You see, I think
Disappointing.
in 02, that game against Brazil was a massive missed opportunity.
Yes.
I think a couple of players don't stand up to be counted in that game.
Yeah.
But I don't think Sven does enough in that game. But having said that, though, he was there to qualify for 3 tournaments and he qualified for more.
Never not qualified.
No, got to the quarterfinals all 3.
Yeah. And
They've been worse.
Brought some off the pitch entertainment.
Brilliant. What a man.
A player.
He is a player.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is like...
Actually, he's getting a 9.
And it doesn't matter what he does.
Yeah.
He's like, he just doesn't care, does
Yeah.
he?
What was it? Nancy DeLow.
Nancy Delalia, Eureka Johnson.
Yeah.
There's some other people at the FA. He's like, I don't care. I'm making the most of this.
Go on, Sven.
I think he was the most paid manager in the world at the time. But
would you say he's one of the most... I wouldn't say it's the best World Cup in terms of, like football maybe, but iconic.
yeah,
I think it's quite iconic.
yeah,
And a fan-friendly one, which I think we're missing this year.
fan friendly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Sorry.
fan friendly.
Yeah.
So goes down as another disappointment. But it did seem like a good World Cup with a lot of good quality there.
Do you think this is more or less disappointing than Euro 2004?
Because I think Euro 2004 set us up for the excitement.
And I think the performance is Euro
Yeah.
2004. Yeah.
Yeah.
You are right, yeah.
So there we go. That's World Cup Germany 2006, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, I was 20.
Yeah. I was 9.
Wow, yeah, there we go. Okay then.
You ready for a...
Quiz time.
1 to 11?
1 to 11. My 1 to 11 has literally nothing to do with what we spoke about during this episode.
No, mine.
But, who cares? So.
Right, I'll give you option 1 or option 2.
Oh, I don't give options.
Go on, option 1 or option 2.
Option 2.
This one will be close to your heart, this will.
Okay. Yeah, go on then.
Right, so this is Wolves versus Fulham, your first home win back in the Prem in 2009.
Wow, I was there.
Yeah.
I remember it, yeah. Yeah, okay. Yours is the 2010 FA Cup final, Chelsea versus Portsmouth.
That's fine. It's out of our era, but that's fine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah? Oh, I'm changing that. No, I can't do that. No, that is.
I'm glad somebody keeps
That
the
is
rules.
like. Is that live?
That's criminal, that is. Should we just go over the rules, though, while you're doing that? So,
Yeah.
obviously, you lose a life for not naming somebody who came on. If you name somebody who has came on, you have to go again. And you get a max of 2 lives.
Yeah. So I've used my imagination. I've gone for the 2009 FA Cup final, Chelsea-Everton, okay?
Okay.
Well, yours is hard on me.
Oh, mine's hard.
I'll go first. Oh, no, I can't remember many Fulham players from that era. Okay.
It's a Wolves game, though, so you should be able to get at least 11.
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
Okay. I know he scored, so I'll go for Kevin Doyle.
Yep, correct. It's Chelsea-Everton. I will go for Petr Cech.
Correct. 2009, our first year. Who was in goal? Put him in.
There's 1 or 2, isn't there?
Yeah, I think in the Reading goalie. I'll go for Carl Henry.
Yep, started. I'll go for Ashley Cole.
Correct. Yeah. I'll go for...
There's a couple of players here I've never even heard of.
Jelly Van Dam.
Not even in the squad.
Wasn't
Life gone.
he? We signed this fullback. He was really good, and but he didn't last very long. Jelly Van Dam, yeah.
He don't sound like a footballer. Sounds like a wrestler. I'm going to go John Terry.
Correct. Oh,
I can't believe you've lost alive. Second one.
what I do. Fulham. Who was the goalie that year? See, we signed the Reading goalie, Hanneman, didn't we? I'll go for Marcus Hanneman.
You're out.
Am I out? You got to get this one right though.
Yeah, I'll go for Louis Sahar. He scored, didn't he?
No.
No.
Ah, correct. That was a disaster.
Right.
Well done. So what's that on the quizzes? I'm 3-2 winning.
3-2, yeah.
Winning. Well, there we go.
Brilliant.
Sad note to finish on, but yeah, that's the end of the episode then.
Yeah, really good episodes. And tune back in next week for episodes.
Episode 6.
Episode
and remember,
6.
you can go back and watch all the other episodes.
Like, subscribe, comment. Brilliant.
Thank you.